Hello, this is Michael Fullan. I'm so excited to be able to start this new cohort after having experienced this probably is our third one at least. And both the ideas are getting stronger, but also the opportunity for change is more obvious, more calling for the leadership that you potentially represent. So we will, if we take the concept of change, what's good about, I think, the way we approach it is that we give you control, both in terms of defining the problem to be examined, in terms of who your mentors would be, how you could shape a proposal for change through the course, how you can influence both the local level and maybe even the region and take into account school policy. So what about the concept of change? This is, has been a preoccupation of all systems. There's so much change that happens that's not planned. That just, whether it's climate change or demography or all the kinds of things that could happen. But there's a certain expectation now that we have that you have to control it to a certain extent. You have to understand it first, which we hope this course will do, and then be able to be influence parts of it that will bring benefit to you and those that you want to work with. And so think about the concept of change. The way I like to introduce it normally is to think about three phases. Uh, let's say the problem is to improve literacy or science, or maybe it's to increase the involvement of community, or to develop some new digital innovations that are of interest to the students or with the students. All of those things we've seen already being developed. And to do that, think about the change process as a group of people, including yourself as one of the leaders, who will co-participate to bring about the changes that really are beneficial. And I think of it, first of all, as the concept of nuance, which is looking beneath the obvious to understand how the factors are interacting. So I can think of three phases. That's the way I usually like to think of any given sequence. Phase one is initiation or starting the change, and that when you are starting a change, that the most important thing to do is to realize that you're our leader, therefore you want to be influential. But in order to be influential, and the phrase we use is you have to jointly determine some of both the direction and the nature of the change process. So jointly determine means that you learn from others, you get other people to influence the process, you do that. You learn to how to get the initial movement going. It starts slow to go faster, to go deeper. So first one is joint determination, that you cannot cause change just because you're smart or because you can have development of ideas. You have to cause change with the people in the situation. The second of three, we call adaptive capacity. That is, when you start to do the change into the process, you'll find that things have to be, you're learning things, or you have to attend to new things, or you have to be, something will work and you want to reinforce it, or you have to go deeper on this or that problem. So that the adaptive capacity is another big part. And the third part, and you notice we only have three, we don't like to have, 8, 10 things to do, but here's the third part is that we call it a culture of accountability. And that is when you are doing some change that's important to the community, to the country, it'll be funded in some way. People will want to see results. And if you just actually impose results and say, we're going to get this by doing it, you won't really be able to get very far. People have to have a commitment. So this is why we call it a culture of accountability. The accountability part is you try to do some change, you measure what the impact is, and you're partially accountable for the success or failure. But the culture part is you do this by looking at the changes, trying to increase transparency. Are we getting anywhere? Reduce judgment, because judgment gets into the way of if people get defensive and they won't develop it. So it is, again, a dynamic process, this flow. The good news is we, Santiago and I together and individually, I really love the design of this. The design of this course is you choose the change priority that you want. You have mentors that will work with you in small groups. You're able to apply a change, test it out with the mentors, test it out with us, report it at future sessions. So the combination of interactions here, yourself and your school system, your interaction with other leaders in the course, interaction with us, all of that makes it interesting, dynamic, and you develop really relationships and friendships. So when you are developing change this way, I think as I mentioned, you have a change project, so that gives you something tangible to look at. You have we help you develop the actual plans to move forward. You have mentors who will support what you do. You have peers that you'll be able to test ideas with. And I think the most interesting development recently in our last 5 years, I wrote the book probably 3 years ago, Principal 2.0, which was the second edition of the role of the principal. And what it says, and I'll give you the conclusion first and then fill it in a bit. It says the new role of the principal is not to implement the policies that generally are passed at the legislative level. Yeah, you have to take those into account. But the new role is to build the local system. If there's one phrase I want you to remember, it's build the local system. The local system is you as principal, teachers in your school, parents and the other community members, and that this kind of building the system is what the principal needs to do in order to provide a degree of coherence locally. So think of the three levels: local, immediate community, that's one level, the community or region, there's a second level, and the third level is policy. So in those three levels, in order to be successful, the local level has to be stronger. And that your job, therefore, as principal, is to enable that capacity at the local level to be developed. That means teachers need to work together well, that students need to be part of the change process. You have to enable parents to be excited about it, students to develop further whatever it is that they're doing. So there's a lot of knowledge now about this system, and we found that the school principals are actually one of the most important people of all, because the principal is the only one who can, I'll say, integrate the local level in the way it has to be integrated. So you are taking into account the bigger policy framework. You are grounded at the local level, but your main role is to develop coherence and capacity with students, with community members, and with other teachers. And then as you get better, you start to work we prefer in networks of schools, learning from other schools, helping other schools to develop. So nothing has been more important than everybody can see that the changes that are needed in society, two big ways of expressing it: climate change deterioration. The universe is weakening, and the second big change is social. I'll call it social mistrust. That the various measures of what people say, to what extent do you trust other members of society? They show a trend the last 15 years that it used to be high trust on the data I'm thinking about. Now it's less. So there's more conflict, more being inside your subgroup. What's needed instead is to reach out. So what we want to see by the end of the course is that you have a project that you've cultivated, that you now can use to help implement things further. And you also have a confidence that even though you might be just at the school level, you are grounded in the possibility of making a difference. When we think of the three levels on our latest formulation, we think of the three levels, first of all, as local, which is the school, regional, which is the combination of schools in a given district or region area, and then the top, which is policy. So think of those three. Here is the trend of influence. You build the local, which means you as a principal are very important and crucial to build the local, strengthen the middle, interact with other schools doing similar things in the region so that you are strengthening your ability to learn from each other. And then we say, we don't have quite a word for the top, but we say intrigue the top. The top are the policymakers. policymakers are preoccupied with getting reelected, with crisis in the society. They don't generally have enough knowledge of the local level to really influence that. So our goal is to develop school principals who can partner upward. Think of that phrase, partner upward. Learn sideways and partner upward. And as you partner upward, you begin to have a very strong impact potentially on policy, and certainly put you in a better position to react to policy. You can, most policies, maybe they're not in order to be implemented because they haven't been worked out enough, but you can, word I would use is proactively exploit policy. What is there in the policy that's important to us at the local level? And how can I as principal get stronger and stronger and make the collective group at that local level strong, that local system? And then finally, the student's role, that's something that has become much more prominent in the last 2 years, increasingly so. Students, as you know, traditionally have been the passive recipients of knowledge that is transmitted to them. In the new role, and we mean this very explicitly, is students are co-change agents. They're not only partners in learning with teachers, but they learn very early to say, as a student in 2024, I know I'm in a world and going to be in a world that's increasingly complex. I better be prepared to influence that world and to be able to adapt, but also to be influential. So our newest work puts students not only as a passive recipient of knowledge, not only as just a partner with teachers, but learning to be good in society and for society. This is the double change agent role. So everything is about active knowledge, active application, learning from that, and doing so as a leader, but making sure that you develop other people at the same time. Finally, I would say that a good concept to think of is that let's think of it as the phrase we use is leadership legacy. So leadership legacy means you're a leader. You start and you work very effectively over 4 or 5 years in a given position. And at the end of the time that you've had that role, you've made an impact. That's one thing, the obvious thing about leadership. The other that's not so obvious is how you can develop leadership in others so that you're a mentor. You're developing leaders to get more work done. And then when you leave, your legacy is the set of leaders who stay behind and are in different positions of leadership, and that they move up. So it's very much of a multiplier proposition for you in the change phenomenon. And I think the importance of change is obvious, but also our ability to be able to work with it now is much more explicit. We look forward very much to the mutual learning that will occur over these different lessons. We've done it 2 or 3 times, so there's a body of material, case studies and others that are really valuable, but we want your input. We want you to take your leadership development as the main goal of the course and to make a difference that way, not only during the course, but years following that. So thanks very much for participating, and Santiago and Asha and I will get going with you as soon as it's set up to start. Take care.